these videos, and I literally don't have anything in mind to say. I don't think of an intro. I just do as the Romans do. I'm having a bad makeup day today. Like, my eyeliner just won't. My eyeliner was leaking black ink, and while I was doing my eyeliner earlier, the ink dripped into my eye. Like, my eyeliner is dripping, and the whites of my eyes turned black, and I had to run to the bathroom and put my eye under the faucet. But it didn't really hurt. Yeah, that's my morning today. I have coffee. Do you ever have those mornings where you're listening to music and you just start crying for no reason? I was listening to Half Mast by Empire of the Sun, and I love that song, but for no reason I just was like, I feel you, man. The pain that people make you go through. I feel you. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. So, I chose 4 creepy stories today that I have not read in their entirety. But they do have creepy titles, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. So, relax, sit back, grab a snack, and I'm gonna hop in. This first story is called The Man with Surgical Gloves. This story is 100% true, and it's always creeped me out. I think about it a lot. About 3 years ago, I was out for a late night walk in the park that was about 2 blocks from where I lived at the time. It was a pretty safe neighborhood, so I often felt comfortable walking around alone during the late hours. I remember it being around 3:30 in the morning. Don't ask why I was up that late or walking around during that time. My exact thoughts. Let's just say I was going through some stuff. In hindsight, I know it wasn't smart, especially as a young woman. Anyway, I approached the park, which was lined with large bushes. There was also a street next to the park, and on the other side of the street, a large grassy field. Suddenly, I spotted a bald man carrying large objects wrapped in plastic. Black plastic. He had on blue surgical gloves and a long plastic jacket. He seemed to be transporting these bagged items across the street from the park and into the field. I stopped and watched for a moment as he began crossing the street again with more bagged items. He stopped when he saw me and ran towards the bushes. Oh my god. He stuffed the bags into the bushes and hid in them. I could see him clearly, and the whole situation gave me bad vibes. I quickly turned around and started walking back home. I glanced back to make sure he wasn't following me, and I saw his bald head peering over the bushes staring at me. Oh my god. I started speed walking, and when I was about a block away, I saw him sprint across the street and hide behind a large tree. Again, all I could see was his bald head peering around the side of the tree, staring at me. By this point, my heart was racing, but I kept walking quickly. I didn't want to run because I didn't want him to know I could see him following me. My thought process was, if a lion is stalking you, it's not a good idea to run, because they'll start chasing you. I just focused on staying calm and getting home safely. Finally, I reached my house and locked both the front and back doors. I tried to shake off what had happened and go to sleep. The next day was completely normal. I decided to walk to the park in the daylight when there were lots of people around, and I checked the bushes to see if he'd left anything behind. Nothing. Later that night, I sat down to watch a movie. I decided not to go on any more late-night walks after that incident. Even though nothing happened to me, it was creepy, and I realized it could have turned into a bad situation. You never know what someone like that is capable of. It seemed like I had caught him doing something suspicious. While I was watching the movie, I got up to grab a glass of water. My kitchen has a window next to the sink with a view of the backyard, and I always kept the kitchen lights off at night so I could keep an eye on the yard without anyone being able to see me. When I looked out into the backyard, to my surprise, I saw him standing in the middle of the yard, just staring at my house. I knew it was him because even in the dark, I could make out his pale, bald head. I immediately cracked open the window and yelled, "Hey!" He took off running, leaving the gate to my fence wide open. Since then, I never saw the man again. I still have no idea what he was doing that night, or what his intentions were in following me home and stalking my house, but I don't think I want to know. What the fuck? That is terrifying. She literally saw this man, probably stuffing dead bodies into these bushes. He followed her ass home. What the fuck? Why is she not calling the police? This is crazy. Crazy. The comments. She's arguing with people in the comments. Someone said, "I honestly don't buy this story." If you caught him carrying heavy plastic bags with heavy things in them, and then you speed walk back to your house and he follows you and knows where you live, I don't think anyone with 2 brain cells would do that. That is so mean. The writer's like, first off, I'm not sure why you have the need to be so rude. I was trying to stay as calm as possible and get out of there without making any hasty moves. Everyone reacts differently in those situations, and I'm sure it's easy to judge when you weren't there. True words. True words. I think I'm confused as to why they didn't call the police, but at the very least, at least this person is okay. Honestly, this is such a scary situation to be in. Wow. They know where you live. You should move. Okay, let's move on to story number 2. This story is called "When I was a kid, I was pulled into a dark void under the bed." I know memory isn't reliable, but part of the story involves my dad, and he has confirmed his side, so here goes. When I was maybe 7 or 8, I was in my bedroom standing beside my bed playing with my toys. It was a single bed that was pretty high off the ground, high enough that my sister and I were able to hide underneath it, and toys could fit under there, but an adult would not. I was setting up a scene between Bratz and the Beanie Babies when something underneath it caught my attention. I very distinctly remember something grabbing my ankles and pulling me off my feet. I remember hitting the carpet and being dragged under the bed into a pitch blackness, but it felt like being pulled off a cliff into a massive empty pool of black. The next thing I remember, I'm stood in my bedroom yelling at my dad that pulling me under the bed wasn't funny, and I weirdly remember that it felt like I woke up in the middle of the sentence. He obviously asked me what the fuck I was going on about, and very confusedly had to explain that it wasn't him, and decided I must have fallen asleep and dreamt it. According to my dad, he heard me screaming and came upstairs to see what was wrong. Came into my bedroom and found me standing in the middle of my bedroom freaking out at him for pulling me under the bed. My dad was a pretty typical dad joke humor kind of guy. He'd jump out at us from behind doors and poke us during scary parts of movies and pick us up and carry us around by our ankles. So I guess in my kid brain it made sense that I thought it was him. I don't remember what else happened that night. I'm pretty sure I slept in my mom's bed because I was so freaked out, but that's really it. Okay, so that's the end of that story. Very interesting. In the comments, it's like a unanimous. Everyone agrees that this person must have fainted. In the comments, this person said, "I think you fainted." And the writer said, "Definitely possible, but I've fainted quite a few times in my life, and it's never felt like that." That's definitely a scary memory to have. This was a shorter story than I expected. I really don't know what could have happened there, but it's weird though, because if he fainted, I guess he just stood back up and started screaming at his dad. But he says it felt like he woke up mid-sentence when he was standing there in the middle of the room. That's pretty creepy. I don't know. This next story is called Old Woman in White Gown, the classic. I, a 25-year-old male on vacation in Kauai with mom and sister. We rented a townhome and had 2 bedrooms, and mine was upstairs. One of the nights I was woken up by what I thought sounded like a doorbell. As I had opened my eyes from a deep sleep, wondering if I was hearing things, the doorbell rang and I sat up fast to look over at the time. It said 3 a.m. I slowly got out of bed and started walking to leave my bedroom when I heard the doorbell again. The silence after almost made me feel like I was dreaming because no one else was waking up from this. And since Kauai is pretty rural, it was eerily silent. As I got to the stairs that lead straight down to the front door, I stopped and listened to see if I could hear anything. A couple seconds go by, and I finally said, "Hello," from the top of the stairs, and in return, a shaky old lady voice said, "Can you help me? Can I come in?" At that moment, I thought I was in a horror movie dream or something. My body was frozen, and I was actually terrified. I went back to my room where I had a balcony that can see who was at the door if they walked away. It was a literal old lady in a white gown walking away barefoot. I ended up calling the police and asking the lady if she needed help while I was on the balcony. Hey. She was saying that her husband got in a car accident down the street. I said the cops are on their way to help, and she just started slowly walking away. She didn't get far when the cops showed up, and I can see and hear him call her by her first name. So I realized she had dementia and was wandering the neighborhood. So it was sad to see, but I had never been more scared. It must have been all the paranormal horror movies my parents made me watch when we were kids. The next night, I was walking back from the jacuzzi at 10 or 11, and as I turned the corner to walk down the street, there she was again, near the front door of her house but under the streetlight. I know she was harmless, but just seeing a very old lady in that white gown and barefoot, again, just standing there under the light, was a terrifying thing to see. And as I was walking towards her, she turned around and started waddling towards me, just adding to the horror. It's more of a funny story at this point, but I think about it all the time. This story, it just reminded me of this really good horror movie. Have you seen The Taking of Deborah Logan? That movie scared the shit out of me for like weeks. It's also about an old woman with dementia, but it's a horror movie. Very good. 10 out of 10 horror movie. This was a really good story. I really enjoyed it. That is such a scary situation to be in, just because you know what people are capable of. And you hear those stories about like a woman coming to your door, and I guess like people trust women more than men automatically, and really that woman is just a distraction to get you to open your door, and then that's when the horror unfolds and you realize she's actually with someone and they're there to kill you. Anyway, let's go to the comments. Dementia is actually extremely sad. That sure is a creepy encounter you had. I hope whoever is overseeing her care considers taking measures so she can't wander out the door at night anymore to potentially get badly hurt or worse. Yes, that's very true. Who the fuck is watching over this woman? She is not in safe hands. Ay, ay, ay. But I like the way this person reacted. They called the police and kept their distance. Okay, on to story number 4. This story is called This Morning on My Hospice Unit. I work overnight shifts as a nurse and often take care of patients who are actively passing away. A large part of my work is to make sure that they are comfortable, clean, and that I monitor the patient. To keep the family updated on their condition, I've got to keep moving at nighttime, so I always help my nursing aides rotate and clean my patients. Besides, it allows me to keep close tabs on how my patients are doing. Last night, I was helping one of my techs, and we noticed the patient was starting to breathe much slower and was starting to have pauses, though not for a very long time. Estimating when someone is going to pass is never an exact science, but there are signals that I can report to the family that the patient is having signs indicating that they're likely going to be passing soon. So after we finished rotating the patient, I called the patient's family to pass on what I had seen. It's unfortunately a little after 1 in the morning when I call the priority contact, but after ringing twice, it went to voicemail. I leave a message apologizing for the late call, explain who I am and why I'm calling, and leave a callback number. My tech and I are back in the patient's room again at 3 a.m. taking care of the patient, and now the patient's breathing is getting even more drawn out. Again, I call the patient's family and again leave a voicemail explaining how I felt the patient won't be around much longer. That's sad. At 5 a.m., I go and sit in the patient's room to chart on my mobile computer and just listen to my fella breathe. Towards the end of my charting, I noticed that the patient's breathing had finally stopped. After doing a quick assessment, I called my tech into the room and we prepped the body for the family to come visit, and I called the family again at maybe 6 in the morning to update them on their family member's passing. This time, they answered the phone and came to the hospital right away as they lived close. 6:30ish, the patient had 2 family members come up to the unit and I guided them to the patient's room for them to say their final goodbyes. As I left the room, I closed the door behind me to give them some privacy in such an intimate moment. The day shifters were starting to filter in when I suddenly heard banging coming from down the hall from the nursing station. I quickly got up and investigated, as banging noises at 7 is the bane of my existence, and I found that the banging had come from an expired patient's room. I quickly run up to the closed door and call out, "What's going on? Is everyone okay?" As I push on the door handle to let me into the room, the door handle doesn't budge an inch. I look down to double check that I'm pushing the right part of the door, as I hear a panicked call from the other side. The door isn't opening. Now, patient doors in hospitals are designed with a heavy emphasis on safety. They are designed to be simple so that staff can get in and out in case of emergency. There's no locking mechanism, and it's just a push handle. I try that push handle again, and it doesn't budge. I shrug my shoulders and consider how I don't have to pay for repairs, and tried pushing with actual man strength, and again, not a budge. I was in and out of this room all night, and that's not including my tech doing the same. We've opened and closed this door repeatedly, and now it's completely immovable. I had to call engineering to get someone to take the door off the handle. Thankfully, the team came quickly, got the door off the wall, and let the terrified family out. I left shortly after, as it was after 7:23, and laughed to myself the whole way home. My patient wanted to spend more time with their family, whether the family wanted wanted to or not. That is the end of that story. The comments. The top 1% commenter. You sound like a really helpful nurse. I'm sure your aides love you. You know what I do when I have a death, and while I bag bodies, I talk to them. I tell them, please don't linger in this place. Your family is not here. They say it's okay to go to the light, and I swear it works. You make a psychic connection with the patients by caring for him. And at the most important time, I think it's one of the greatest rewarding experiences to help someone in this way. I get them putting call lights on sometimes if that happens. Ask them to stop. It usually works. Hospice is my favorite place to work. If I get to nursing school, I want to be a death doula. I got an image the other day in my head of holding someone's hand while they passed, and I was a nurse. I teared up because it was so beautiful. I hope I'm right. I just got a text. That is really weird about the door. Like, that's very, very weird. But who's to say it just wasn't a, I don't know, construction oversight? I don't know. I'll tell you, like, working in hospice care, it definitely takes a special type of person. So this person said, as an old retired nurse, I can well believe this. Strange things happen sometimes. There is or used to be a sort of belief passed down from older nurses that a window should be open to let the soul free. One night, as a very junior nurse, I was helping wash and prepare a body. We always spoke to the person, telling them what we about to do, etc. Just going to roll you over, Maggie. And the older nurse said suddenly, oh, we forgot to open the window, and went to it. Suddenly, before she could even touch it, it flew open. It was not a windy night, and the window had to be unlatched to open it. That would scare the shit out of me, actually. Like, to this day, I don't really believe in ghosts, but if I saw, like, something move without any explanation, like something like, if I saw the latch to the window unlock itself, like get pulled out, and then slam upwards, I would think there was an invisible entity, like, straight up, but that's never happened to me. That's really scary. That's a scary story. But yeah, that was definitely a sweet death story, I suppose. Guys, if you have any scary experiences that you would like me to read on this channel, go ahead and send me an email with that story. I would love to hear your paranormal experiences or your creepy encounters. Okay? And then, before I end this video, I just want to say, if you're still here,